Am I the a-hole for running away and making my parents look like bad people? So, about a year back, my family, me 17 female, my brother, mom and dad, got kicked out of our rental home. My parents struggled financially to support all of us and couldn't find an affordable house that suited our needs, so they came up with a genius solution. They basically started renting a 2-bedroom house and told me in no uncertain terms that I was to go find a family member to take me in. They kicked me out and left me on the front yard with basically nothing but a bag of clothes and my cat. They didn't even help me figure out a living situation. I ended up staying with my disabled aunt for a few weeks, but she couldn't financially support us both, so I had to figure something else out. I ended up venting about this online, and an older friend of mine, Ace, 24, privately reached out and offered to let me stay with him. Ace and I had been friends for a little while at this point, and I trusted him, so I said yes. He drove up to my aunt's place and stayed with us for a few weeks, and then we packed up my things and headed back to Ace's home. Disclaimer: I know this seems extremely sketchy and in most cases would be, but Ace is chill, and we talk with certain members of my family daily, so he's up to date on literally every bit of drama that goes on in our lives, so no one's really concerned about Ace doing anything. We only live about an hour-ish from my aunt. I'm safe. Please don't call Ace weird or sketchy or anything. He isn't. Anyway, recently one of my cousins got married, and I got invited. I wanted to go, so Ace drove me home and I went to the wedding with a friend. This was the first time since they kicked me out that my parents saw me and they freaked out. My mom grabbed me and started screaming and crying about how worried she was about me, and my dad started yelling at me demanding where I went. This was in the middle of the reception. I told them that since they kicked me out, I left. A lot of distant family heard this and got pissed off at my parents for kicking a minor out of the house, and others for them ruining cousin's wedding. In the chaos of people freaking out over my parents and trying to calm everyone down so the party could continue, I managed to sneak out and go back to Ace. We went home, and ever since I've been bombarded with calls from my parents, another family telling me to go back and stop hanging out with that pervert. I've been refusing and blocking numbers left and right. Also, my cousin forgave me for what happened at her wedding. She said she enjoyed the drama and having the attention off of her while her husband solely blamed my parents for what happened. I honestly think my parents don't actually care about me. If they did, then they would have contacted my school before now about me, or the cops. Or even my aunt who says that they never ever talked about me when they called her. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. By the way, your parents can't actually legally throw you out at 17. You could have gone to the cops. And your parents only looked like bad people here because they are. My mom kicked me out when I was 16. I walked to the police station. I was told, she can't kick you out. And I replied that she just did. It was met with another, she can't. I ended up leaving the station because they weren't going to actually do anything. Cops are useless. Yep, my friend's dad randomly started locking him out at 15. So he practically lived at my house. And you're right, the cops can't monitor that stuff and they won't. Not stay home. You did nothing wrong. And so long as you feel safe with Ace and he is helping you, I don't see a problem there. Your people who gave you life are just mad they are now known for not being parents. Not stay home. You didn't run away. They kicked you out. They made that scene because family was asking about you at the wedding and they didn't know how to answer. So when you showed up, they saw it as the perfect opportunity to turn it around onto you as running away to deflect from them kicking you out. They didn't expect you to tell the truth. Their little made-up story to save face didn't quite work out for them. Oh wow. And I was wondering, why did the parents start making a fuss of they're the guilty ones? How sordid of them. Not stay home. You didn't run away. You were abandoned. You were left to figure it out on your own, and their reaction was solely to deflect blame away from them. Rude and disrespectful not only to you, but to the bride and groom. You have no culpability in this situation. You could have gone to the police or CPS, and they could and should have been arrested. Please don't say you ran away. That makes it sound like you had a choice in this situation. You were abandoned and forced by them to find your own way as a minor. My heart breaks for you. When karma comes for them, please enjoy the show. Next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother-in-law's wife out of my husband's wake? My brother-in-law, Andres, married to his longtime girlfriend, Bea, last year. The wedding was held 30 minutes from the city by boat. During the reception, my husband, Dante, collapsed. His brain aneurysm ruptured, and he never made it to the hospital. First day of my husband's wake, Andres and Bea came. Andres had been crying. I noticed how he looked like he hasn't had any sleep. Bea gave me her condolences and placed flowers beside my husband's casket. Andres was always there, only leaving to shower and change while Bea would visit every night. On the fourth night, while I was making myself coffee, Bea approached me and started telling me how terrible things had been. Dante dying on the most important day of her life. I told her how devastated I was. We have always been careful since the day we found out about Dante's aneurysm. He quit his job as a physics teacher at our local high school 3 years ago. We visit our GP regularly just to make sure that everything is going well. Bea cut me off and asked me, "So you mean you knew about the aneurysm?" I told her yes, and that he had been taking medication for it. She said Andres never told her about it. She continued saying it was reckless of us to dance and drink when we know about Dante's condition. He only had a glass of champagne. I asked her what she means, and she basically told me that had she known about my husband's illness, she never would have invited us to her wedding. She said we ruined her wedding. That after we left the island, the reception was cut short. Andres was so worried to even focus on his new wife. I told her to leave before I forget that she was ever my friend. She didn't listen and continued telling me how expensive her wedding was, and that by ruining it, I owe her half of the expenses. I shouted at her and told her to get over herself. My in-laws heard us and came to stop everything before it escalated. I told her to leave and never come back unless she apologized. My in-laws, who still didn't understand what's happened, told Andres to take Bea home. Both mother-in-law and father-in-law were upset with me for causing a scene in their son's wake. I didn't tell them what Bea said. They only found out after Andres told them. He and Bea had a fight, and they had moved their honeymoon, which was supposed to be a month after we buried my husband. To make the long story short, Bea didn't apologize. Until now, we still haven't spoken. I don't go to family dinners anymore, but I still have a good relationship with my in-laws. I do believe that I have all the right to be angry at Bea, but I also want to make my in-laws happy. They have been nothing but good to me, and unless Bea and I make up, there will always be tension in our family. So am I the a-hole for the way I reacted? Was kicking her out an overreaction? Not the a-hole. I'm not entirely sure why the in-laws keep inviting her to things after what she said, or why Andres even stayed married to her, but that's for them to worry about. You are under no obligation to go out of your way to socialize with someone who refuses to acknowledge their breathtaking insensitivity and self-centeredness. This, and this. Every word. I am flabbergasted. You went as far as commiserating with her on your own husband's wake. Because, yeah, it does suck to have this happen on one's own wedding. But this was already very, very mature of you. What you got after was just, wow. I especially loved the pettiness of asking for a refund. Yes, like it's okay for Bea to have these thoughts. Emphasis, thoughts. Because grief does weird things to people. And it was her wedding. But you know who you never freaking ever express those thoughts to? The goddamn widow or grieving family. Like, holy crap. Keep it to yourself and or your therapist. And then the part where she asked to be reimbursed. Holy chips. That was so far over the line she's been lost to the sunset. Not today, OP. Look, it's her wedding year and it was completely inconsiderate of OP to lose her husband during that year. Not a-hole. She basically said your husband died on purpose to ruin her wedding. That is beyond a-hole. It's cruel, insensitive and all that. For me, that would be lifelong no contact. This, my husband's best friend, was meant to be our best man and had been in the hospital for a while. But the morning of our wedding, he passed away. One of the groomsmen told me he'd passed, and I knew I was the only person who could break the news. My husband and I did a first look, and I remember thinking, how am I going to tell him that his best friend is gone? I was in my dress. We both had family from out of state, and the cake was there, the flowers, etc. I looked at the love of my life and told him his best friend was gone. Then I said, if you can't do this today, we won't. We'll figure it all out. I'm not going to stand by and watch you have to put on a brave face for the sake of a party when your heart is broken. My husband and I got married that day, at his insistence, and everyone told me later that his best friend wouldn't have had it any other way. We went to the memorial service on the last day of our honeymoon. If my brother-in-law had passed away at my reception, the absolute last thing on my mind would have been witching about a ruined party to his wife at his funeral. All I'd be able to do was sit next to her and provide my shoulder and remind her she's loved. Opie's not the a-hole, but dear God, I can't imagine what her in-laws are thinking. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for choosing my twin brother over my wife? I, 27 male, have a twin, Lucas, 27 male. We are very much alike in some things. He loves fitness and so do I. That's why I became a firefighter and is a gym manager. He has a motorcycle, Kawasaki Ninja 300 I'm pretty sure. He was on a closing shift and he got rear-ended by a crappy Ford. He broke his left leg at his collarbone and has a mild concussion. I broke down when I heard this, as he's my best friend. Forward 2 days after the crash, my wife is going to a wedding and I'm her +1. While we were getting ready to leave while she was doing her makeup, my brother texted me from the hospital and for me to please come to the hospital because he really needs comfort and is in pain and stuff. I told my wife about the situation and she yelled at me to not go there because he's a grown man that can suck the pain. I slammed the front door shut, leaving her with our baby and went on my motorcycle there. I didn't even think. All I could think about is how much of a witch she was then. I stayed with my brother overnight as I had work the next morning. Now, I have been getting texts from her family and friends saying I was an awful husband for not choosing your wife and choosing your brother. I blocked all of them. And now my wife is expecting me to apologize for something that she started and making me look after our baby as soon as I get from work. I told her I'm not apologizing until you are. I'm sorry, but he is blood related, my brother, and it hurts me to see him in that state. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Maybe after the divorce, you and your brother can get bunk beds. Fun! You're the a-hole. So you ain't even gonna bring up the fact that she said that he could suck up the pain and that she thought a wedding was more important than supporting a family member in need. It was 2 days after the crash. There was no immediate threat. The twin just wanted comfort, and they had a prior obligation. I'd be mad too. The brother wasn't in any life-threatening scenario where going to a wedding would cause Opie to miss anything. Especially as it sounds like the wedding was local. Not any overnight or anything. So yes, Opie's the a-hole all around. What's the dude going to do for his brother? Hey bro, how you doing? You okay? And magically the brother will get better and go water skiing? You're the a-hole. It sounds like you didn't want to go and this was a perfect excuse. Have you ever heard of this amazing concept called emotional support? Dude just got into a major accident that probably scared the absolute crap out of him, and is now alone in the hospital in pain. Opie shouldn't have left the way he did, although I understand being angry at that rather heartless comment she made. But if my sister was in the same situation, I wouldn't be going to a wedding instead of going to comfort her. I would expect my wife to understand that, and I know for a fact that my fiancé would understand. You don't visit people in the hospital because you can fix it. Also, if he just wanted an excuse not to go, he wouldn't wait until his brother asked for him when he was already about to attend. Or are you suggesting he asked his brother to call him at that moment, like he was a friend getting him out of a bad date? Edit. When I mean taking care of our baby, I mean not doing nothing. We made an agreement before she was born what jobs we would do. Example, she does the feeding and the nappy changing, and I feed her at night and put her to sleep. I'm not a bad father, I'm just a witch sometimes, and I get I overreacted and shouldn't have left. So, yeah. Now for the last story, am I the a-hole for telling my coworker she got what she paid for? So I, 20 female, work with this woman, Julia, 25-ish female, not her real name, and she recently got engaged. A group of us were talking in a break room, and Julia was complaining about how she wanted engagement photos, but professional photographers were too expensive. One of our coworkers then mentioned that I got a really nice camera as a Christmas gift, and that I could probably take pictures for them. Hearing this, I immediately said, yes, but I'm not a professional or anything. I just take pictures of my dog and stuff. Julia told me that a nice camera is a nice camera, and a photographer doesn't matter. She asked if I'll take free pictures for them, and I said I would. I know, I'm dumb, but I wanted to be nice and I felt kinda trapped because she asked in front of everyone. We have the photography session and it went pretty well. The pictures turned out pretty nice, and I spent a lot of time teaching myself how to edit them for her. Yesterday, I brought a few of the edited pictures to work for Julia to take a look. The pictures aren't at a professional level or anything, but I thought they looked pretty nice. Julia didn't agree, I guess, because she said, oh, these are okay, but I guess I was expecting something different. I have a little bit of a big mouth and a short temper, so here's the part where I may have been the a-hole. I said, well, you don't have to be a witch about it. You wanted free pictures and you got what you paid for. Now, I'm refusing to give Julia the rest of the photos, and some of our coworkers are accusing me of overreacting and being too sensitive. Am I overreacting? Am I the a-hole here? Not the a-hole. I'm a professional photographer, and honestly, I hear this all the time. Julia told me that a nice camera is a nice camera and the photographer doesn't matter. It makes me furiously angry every time I hear it. I spent years learning how to be a good photographer, and it has nothing to do with the camera. I can take better engagement pictures with my phone than a non-trained photographer can with an expensive DSLR. Julia's ignorant and selfish and wants professional quality for free. Also, as a professional, I will tell you that the client never gets all the pictures I take. I edit photos and I present the best of the best. So there's no reason you should give her all the pictures. Give her the ones you are proud to share with her and others and be done with it. And word of advice, people who put down a profession and want something for free are always going to be problems. Don't let yourself get sucked into this again. If I don't understand it, it must be easy. Seems to be quite a commonplace line of thought. Or, most of the technical skills required are subtle or hidden, so I can call it easy and demand it free. Not the a-hole. Julia sounds like she belongs in r/choosing beggars, although I think I'd give Julia the unedited photos, since you weren't charging her in the first place, and let that be your wedding gift. By the way, I work with a guy who started taking free photos for people and got really good at it, so now it's his side hustle. So if you're interested, don't give up. Not the a-hole, but you're not doing yourself any favors professionally. It will cause you more workplace drama if you continue to hold on to the photos. You agreed to do the photo shoot and are now withholding the photos. Regardless of the reason, some people will perceive you as unreliable and emotional because of this choice. Your coworker was wrong, but you chose to put yourself in the position of getting involved with her outside of the workplace. It would be best for your reputation to apologize for the way you worded your response. Explain that you were hurt because you tried your best and hand over the photos.